It is May 8th. It's still May 8th, 2025. And I'm here with Luci Kinsinger, who actually was one of Sattler's inaugural students. Can you believe it's been, how long has it been, Luci?
Well, we had our 5th year anniversary, so it must have been like 6 years.
That's right. That sounds about right. But I think Luci came to August in 2018, the fall of 2018, and spent 2 semesters here. And then, Luci, where are you right now?
I'm in Oakland, Maryland. It's like the little triangle on the very end of Maryland's tail.
Well, first of all, I'd love to hear about, maybe rewinding a little bit, where were you at when you decided to spend that year at Sattler, and then how did things unfold in your life, and maybe just try to catch me up so I know sort of a timeline. And usually I love to ask people their general stories so that people know who you are before you came to Sattler and those kinds of things. But I'd love to be filled in.
So before I came to Sattler, I was really just kind of hungry for some higher education. I always loved school. And when I saw Sattler, it kind of just hit something in me, like, this sounds really cool, going to Boston, interacting with professors that had been educated in places like Harvard, and especially the kind of niche worldview, not necessarily Anabaptist, but yet having that early Christian perspective.
Right.
I was like, I really, really liked it.
And before, I think your claim to fame here, at least in my mind, is you're the only student that's maybe written a book before showing up as a student. And I'd love to just talk a little bit about where did you develop a habit or a passion to write? And then we can follow up with, at this stage in your life, how do you fit writing in with all the other things that you're passionate about? And I'm sure your life has changed since you were here in Boston with that.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Yeah. I've always loved, when I was a little girl, I loved reading. I spent my whole childhood just reading. And, I guess it's kind of a natural, I was a shy person. And so I would vent by writing, and I learned to love writing that way. And then I started a blog, and it was very scary publishing my first blog post and having actual people read what you wrote. That was so terrifying. But then it was also really thrilling when you got good feedback. People read this and they're like, I really like it. And so it was kind of intoxicating, I guess. Yeah. And just, it was a way that I still feel that way, that I can express myself, maybe parts of myself that I would not probably verbalize, I can express through writing. And so it's just part of me, a creative part and an expressive part that is my art, I guess.
All right. So since marrying and having children, how do you fit writing, and how do you keep that alive as a passion at this stage? And being I think I saw that you wrote you consider yourself a stay-at-home mom. I always joke with my wife about better titles or alternative titles, but it's one of the most important roles. So how do you fit it in now?
So I fit it in where and when I can. Sometimes it's when I can't sleep at night. Sometimes it's in the early morning. Sometimes it's over nap time. Sometimes it's with a child on my lap, just here and there. And it's really hard now to find that quality time, that time where you can just focus and zone out. And I think the very best time that I actually get that is when Ivan has the children for, maybe he's working outside or something, and they're with daddy. And then I love it. I come out of those times so happy because I actually got some writing time, some real writing time where you're in a different world of your own.
I'll make sure to send the recording to him so he knows that. I'm sure he knows that. And then I actually think this, Luci, this is actually, we actually make internal jokes here that we have a strange retention rate because more of the women who come here do end up getting married maybe midway through their college career, maybe not midway. And they thought they wanted a degree, but then, you know, somebody comes along and asks them to date, and then dating leads to all the things that dating leads to, marriage. So how do you fit, like, I know you've probably thought about, how do you square away those seemingly two dreams that seem at odds with each other, or maybe not? Like, how do you square the education with motherhood, and where do all those dreams fit in? Do you have anything to say to other young women who were in your shoes and have similar passions?
I guess it's going to be different for different people, like what your priorities are. Writing is really important to me. And even though I feel like I don't really get the quality that I used to or the time, I do still try to do it a little bit here and there and just keep it up. You know, I know there'll come a time when I have more time for it. But I think, and I've heard this from more than one people, and it's what I try to embrace. And I know that, you know, this is how it is for a lot of women who love their families and love their children. You know, you're not going to get those years back when your children are little, when they're tiny. You know, yeah, those years are so precious, and I do realize that. And I really love, you know, being a mom to my children, and it's okay that I can't write the way I used to, because I'd rather be there for my children when I can, as much as I can, as much as I know how to be.
Yeah, I just wanted to affirm you that I generally think that at any given point of time, I also try to tell women who say I might, or young women who might get married, is it even worth starting a degree if you even suspect that you might start dating and get married midway? Do you have anything to say to somebody with that kind of in the back of their mind, that they're like, is it even worth starting something if I'm going to have to stop at midway, or choose to stop at midway? And feel free to say it's not worth it if it wasn't worth it for you. I'm just curious what your thought is on that.
Well, I mean, if you sit around your whole life waiting to get married, you might be disappointed, and then you won't have a degree or children. And then, you know, like, I think it's totally worth pursuing what you love and being happy in it, because I was very happy as a single woman and very fulfilled. You know, I always, you know, I had my eyes open, you know, if God had somebody for me, but I didn't feel like, that's what it was going to take to fulfill me. And I'm glad it was that way. I'm glad that I was pursuing things I loved, and I'm glad that I had a passion. And not everybody just knows right away what they're passionate about. But when I started writing, I you know, it did a lot for me. It gave me a lot of courage, and yeah, it just, helped me really step out of my comfort zone. And I'm very glad that I pursued that. And I will continue to pursue. My degree is one, or my dream of writing is one that I can really take anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm just going to ask you a follow-up question here, because I have a lot of conversations with people who, you said, like, really getting the most out of your singleness. And I feel like there's a certain people who the last thing they want to be is single, and they're like trying to fight against it. Do you have any advice on how to just suck the marrow out of singleness for all it's worth? I know that that's a hard question, but I think that it's really relevant for people in their early 20s who are like, hey, I'm single and I don't really want to be, but I'm also have tons of time and opportunity. So what would you say to somebody in that sort of life stage?
I mean, everybody's different, and I pursued what I loved naturally. And my husband, he was single for a while too. And he really wanted to be married. I mean, he really, you know, but the right person didn't come along. But now he looks back and he's like, oh, he's glad he got to travel, because he traveled a lot. Like he was to every state in the U.S. He was to quite a few different countries. And now we, you know, try to travel with children, and It's really difficult. So there are really a lot of opportunities as a single person that are so much more complicated in some ways when you're married. Life changes a lot.
No, I agree, and I won't give my advice, but I always think it's really interesting where as soon as somebody starts focusing on what they can do with being single, that's exactly when they start attracting people to themselves. It's a really odd it's an odd paradox that I've sort of noticed where like if you all you think about is not being single. Anyway, yeah, I just think I have things to say on that.
I love being married, and I'm so thankful that God brought Ivan into my life. But like, there's a part of me that misses the old single Lucy. Like, I don't know, I changed. You just change, and it's okay. But I kind of miss that single person. I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. Speaking of missing people, I know that I always like to talk to people about people who have shaped them and friendships that have made an impact on faith. And I know that you have a lot of people in your life that have done that for you. Would you mind talking a little bit about friendships that have impacted you deeply and strengthened your faith? I'm just sort of reading some stuff I had written down to talk to you about.
Yeah. So the friendship that's most deeply impacted me I actually wrote a memoir published since I was in college called Turtle Heart. And that tells the story of my friendship with an older, she was like in her 70s, Ojibwe woman. And she was a very unique person. She came to know God, the creator. She always called him the creator. She grew up in a Catholic home, so she had the church teaching, which she said the nuns didn't really teach the Bible. She went to Catholic school. The nuns didn't really teach the Bible, but they taught about the 10 Commandments. I think that's what she said. But so she had some of that, maybe not the strongest Bible background, but she did have some knowledge. But she really came to a love of the Creator, I think, just through her love of nature and through the sense that God gave her of himself, because he has that connection with each person that is open to him. And I really learned that through her. I really learned about that God connection that is inborn and that none of us can manufacture or we can't give it to ourselves or to another person. Like, that is a very private and very precious thing. And I learned so much. I was trying to help her, and I believe I did. Through our friendship, she came to read her Bible, and I feel like she really came to peace with dying. But she also really broadened my view of God and of humanity and of myself. One thing she did is help me step outside the box of Mennonite. Like, I'm this little Mennonite girl that feels shy in the big world and doesn't think that other people are going to understand the way I think. But when I got to know Shar, we really connected at this deeper level that I realized, you know what? Yeah, we're all different, but they're individual differences. It's not because I'm a Mennonite doesn't make me just automatically different. Like, I just grew up feeling different, and then just realized that was kind of in my head through our friendship and through our connection.
And can you say again, where was Shar from, or what was her background?
She was Ojibwe, Chippewa. She was just a local woman that lived there in a town near me, and I got to know her through. For a while, I did this thing where I would drive people to doctor's appointments. It's kind of like a little in between job that I did, and so that's how I got to know her, through driving her to her doctor's appointments that she needed. Oh, we just hit it off, and I kept going back to visit, and yeah.
And we corresponded a little bit via email, and I think the unusual friendships could. It's actually great to sort of think about that. it's not like the very vanilla or stereotypical friendships that always shape people, like the mentor or somebody you grew up with or a pastor. Are there any other unusual friendships that you have in mind in your own life or others that are worth noting?
I like people, and especially like people from different cultures and people that think differently from me, because it sharpens my mind, and it just helps me see a different perspective. And so I kind of pick up these friends from different places. One friend that we corresponded quite at length, and we still correspond, not as much as we used to, but is a woman that actually, like, she was very, I guess, anti-conservative Christian would be the right word, pretty skeptical about even there being a God, and so just a lot of those arguments. And she actually, strangely enough, like my arguments, I guess, with her about God and about Christianity, about the Bible, whatever, they actually helped me realize, because I've had a lot of doubts in my past about even, if there is a God, that sort of thing, just a lot of questions, things that I struggled with, doubting my faith. And she actually strangely strengthened my faith, because I just didn't want what she had. Like, I'm not saying that she had a bad life. She has a very good life. She's chosen what she's chosen what she wants, and she's happy with it. But it's not what I want. And knowing her made me realize that, like, I want God, and it also made me realize arguments are just arguments. Like, they're intellectual exercises that we do, but they don't really get down to the heart of things. And so, like, we connect with God at a way deeper level than our intellect.
No, I love that, Luci. And then you mentioned that at least some of the focal. Can you remind me the names of your books that you've written, just so everyone knows and they can find them if they're interested?
So I've written 2 memoirs. One is Anything But Simple: My Life as a Mennonite. That's the first book I wrote that I had already published when I was a student at Sattler. And that just tells about me growing up in my community there in northern Wisconsin, and my journey as a Christian, as a young person growing into an adult, and as a Mennonite, you're bringing in some of those cultural experiences and just the way I grew up. And then Turtle Heart is a second memoir that really focuses on my friendship with Charlene, and just an intimate look at our friendship and the ways we changed each other. And then I also have 2 children's books that I've published with Christian Light Publications. One is called The Arrowhead, and it's based on my dad when he was a little boy. And then one is Rosanna in the Middle. That's my most recent book. And that one's based on my mom when she was a little girl. So.
Well, and then, so it is true that your focal points are about people and how they've impacted you. And then I'm curious on the second title. Why did you on the turtle? Can you say it one more time?
Turtle Heart.
So tell me about the book title and why you titled it Turtle Heart.
So Charlene was a storyteller, and that's the old Ojibwe lady that that's the one the book is about. She was a storyteller, and she told me a story one time about a turtle heart. She said one time the neighbor man wanted her to help make turtle soup because he had a turtle and his wife wouldn't touch it. So he wanted Charlene to help him with his turtle. So anyway, they took the turtle and they chopped its head off and they hung it on the clothesline. They hung the turtle on the clothesline. And she said it was an hour before the turtle stopped kicking. And so when it finally stopped kicking, they cut open the turtle, and she said there was the heart, and the heart was still beating. And she said there were 4 chambers, and they stopped beating one at a time, but she said it was like 3 days. I forget how. There was a few days before it stopped beating altogether. And she said, now she wants a heart like the turtle heart. And she said, and the reason she said that is because she had a very poor heart that was a part of her health issues. She had a lot of health issues, and one of them was a really weak, bad heart. And so she was wishing for a turtle heart. But when she said that, it became symbolic to me of like all of us in the hearts, the broken hearts that we have, the misshaped, weak hearts, and we're asking for a change of heart. Like as people, like each one of us, we want to be different in some way, and sometimes the person that we want to be seems so far from who we are and what we can achieve, and I guess her cry or her desire for a new heart became symbolic of like her and how she wanted to change, because she the addictions that she battled, the ways of being that she battled, that she was trying to change. I could see her trying, in her life to become a better person. And it became symbolic of just reaching out for something better, and of all of us and how we're reaching for that and asking God, give us a new heart. And so that's where the title Turtle Heart came from.
That was better. That was a better answer than I could have ever anticipated. That's great. And then just how do you, I don't know if you've been asked this before, what's the secret to developing some of these unusual friendships for your average person who thinks about, probably like is open to the idea of developing unusual or unlikely friendships? How do you, are there any like tips or hints you have for people who are like, man, I wish I could spend more time with people who aren't exactly like me, etc.?
It seems like people are all around, like, and people are interesting. Like if you're interested in people, you will pick them up. And like I always tend to go for the ones that are not quite fitting in, and I ask them questions. What about this? And what about this? And and most people really connect or are open to someone that's just interested in them.
Got it.
I don't know if that's a good answer.
Just out of curiosity. No, it makes sense. I don't know if you have like if you pick up a lot of your friendships through that job or something, but having a job like that feels you're automatically going to brush shoulders with unlikely people, but I don't know if you've developed other friendships.
You mean a job? You mean like with Shar?
Yeah, like taking people to doctor's appointments.
That was just for a short period of time. I didn't have that job very long. But
right.
Yeah. I don't know. I just here and there. I meet people. I met a really good friend of mine who's from Somalia. She has a very interesting story.
Where did you meet your friend from Somalia?
So, yeah, that was really like just random. You asked, how do I meet how do I meet friends? I said, I like people from a variety of backgrounds, and I do. I love having friends from lots of different places, but I can't really tell you how to meet them because, like my one really good friend who is from Somalia, I just randomly met her at the Mall of America, which is like, I think the largest mall in the US or whatever, but it happens to be about a few hours from where I grew up. And so one day my siblings and I went to the Mall of America. We just felt like doing something different, and we went there to do the rides. So we were doing all the rides at the Mall of America. And this lady comes up and says, are you Muslim? Because she had never seen, we were Mennonites wearing our Mennonite dresses and caps, and she had never seen Mennonites before, and she was trying to figure out where we fit. And she said, are you Muslims? And we were like, no, we're Christians. And she said, oh, she's a Christian too. Maybe she could come to our church sometime. So we connected. And through that, we have kept up our friendship, and we still talk about that, how we just randomly met at the Mall of America. And it really does feel like a God thing that we came together, because it was really unique. But yeah, that's how I met. met Jacob.
For anyone who wants to know a little bit more about you or your books, where can we find you? I know you said CLP, but is there a website or somewhere else we can find your work?
So, Christian Light carries my 2 children's books. But with my memoirs, probably just Amazon is the easiest. Amazon or Barnes and Noble, if you do online shopping. That would probably be the easiest spot to look for my 2 memoirs.
And you mentioned that you were a blogger at one point in life. Do you still blog, or is that a thing of the past?
I've recently resumed blogging a lot less frequently than I used to, but I am starting to post again. I kind of took over a year break after the birth of our little Teddy, but I'm starting again, and that's lucindajkinsinger.com is where I blog.
Perfect. And Luci, I just wanted to say thanks so much for joining and just giving people a tiny insight into your life. And I just wanted to say thanks and blessings. And I hope that some people can find your books and be inspired by your life.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was fun to be able to do this.
Great. Yeah, God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.